I'd like to thank you all for taking this time today to participate in this special Remembrance Day service, either online or in person. Even though it is different this year, it is so important to observe this day. We know this is not what we pictured or what we expected for this year's event. All we know, it is important for us to remember together, even when we can't be together. 2020 will be something for us to all look back and remember the sacrifices we all currently we are doing for the greater good. The Beverly Cenotaph is the oldest in Alberta, where for 100 years, Edmonton's communities have attended this outdoor memorial to honor our past and present veterans. We remember the sacrifice of thousands of Canadians who died for us, for our freedom, for Canada. By remembering their service and their sacrifice, we recognize the traditions of freedom these men and women fought to preserve. They believed that their actions in the present would make a significant difference for the future. And it's up to us to ensure that their dream of peace is realized. On Remembrance Day, we acknowledge the courage and sacrifice of those who served their country. Why are we here today? Because in less than 2 years, after the 11th hour, the 11th day, and the 11th month of 1918, the first cenotaph in Alberta was dedicated in the town of Beverly. The trauma of the First World War was still fresh in the minds of the members of the Beverly Veterans Institute and their servicemen and citizens who gathered here 100 years ago. Beverly was home to barely 1,000 citizens, yet it contributed 170 men to the First World War effort, and 28 of them died in action. Those who survived returned home with determination to build a better community, to never forget the sacrifices of their fallen comrades. We continue this event to honor them, lest we forget. At this time, I'd like to call upon Padre Bennett to say a prayer.
Today, when we would hope to gather in person in greater numbers to honor the service and sacrifice of so many in the cause of freedom and peace, we must do so separately. Our distance from one another diminishes neither our gratitude nor the inspiration we draw from the example of these heroes we name on this day aloud or in the silence of our hearts. In respecting individual beliefs and conscience, I invite you to take this moment for contemplation. Today, we give thanks for the men and women of every generation who have answered the call to serve our country at sea, on land, or in the air, at home or abroad. We give thanks for those who serve today. We do not take for granted the sacrifices made by those who laid down their lives for us. In this year, marking the 75th anniversary of the end of the Battle of the Atlantic and Victory Days in Europe and Japan, we remember the sailors, soldiers, and aviators who were deployed in the cause of peace. May we offer thanks for the determination, strength, and will which they required to face the terrible hardship of war. It is with gratitude that we remember our veterans and serving members who suffer or who have suffered injuries in body, mind, and spirit. May we be compassionate to those who put an end to the struggle of their lives, those for whom suffering was so great and despair carried such weight that they were unable to find hope for the future. We remember them. We pray for the world and for those of our country, for our Sovereign Lady, Elizabeth II, Queen of Canada, the Governor General, the Prime Minister, and the Chief of the Defense Staff. We gather to affirm with one another our determination to fight beliefs which divide us, racism, hateful attitudes, and the use of violence. We seek to remove the barriers of division through a spirit of reconciliation and service. On this day, when so much has changed since the last time we gathered, may we be comforted by the words from Her Majesty, the Queen to Canadians, in the context of this pandemic. Hope is to be found in the care given to the vulnerable and to those in need. May we find hope in the service and sacrifice made by those who offer themselves for the sake of others, because darkness of the night always ends with the light of the day. May this be so, and may we work to make it so. Amen.
At this time, I'd like to call upon Honorary Lieutenant Colonel Gord Steinke to read the Act of Remembrance.
For the fallen, they shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
At this time, I'd like to call upon Master Warrant Officer Pollier to do In Flanders Fields.
In Flanders Fields, the poppies blow between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky, the larks still bravely singing fly, scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead, short days ago, we lived, felt dawn, saw sunsets glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders Field. Take up our quarrel with the foe, to you from failing hands we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high, if ye break faith with us who die. We shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders Field.
The Beverly Memorial has an honor roll of the first 28. We will quickly go through this, but I would like to name those people. Private Mark Baguette, 31st Battalion. Private Tony Bender. Private James Crawford, 49th Battalion. Private Thomas Duffy, 27th Battalion. Chief CSM Michael Ellis, 49th Battalion, has the Distinguished Conduct Medal. Private Ernest Griffin, 78th Battalion, Winnipeg Grenadiers. Private Carlisle Hill. Private Frank Howard. Private Frederick Howard, 7th Battalion. Private John Jack, 49th Battalion. Private Hugh Knowles, 49th Battalion. Corporal Charles Kyle, 4th Battalion. William Lambert, 31st Battalion. Private James Lammy. Private John McIntosh. Private Robert Martin. RSM Martin Murphy. Harry Private Harry Orchard, Private Reginald Parrish, Private Edward Phillips, Private Edward Pearson, Private Edmund Pinchik, Private Richards, Private William Reville, Private Ernest Salt, Private Jack Thomas, Private Robert Thompson, and Private James Walker. These are our honored members that lost their lives in World War I. And as you can hear, we have 408 Squadron about to fly over the Cenotaph. The flyby was presented by 408 Squadron, the Griffin helicopters, and their honorary colonel, Jalen Nye, was on one of those. At this time, I'd like to call upon Mark Stevenson on behalf of the Beverly Business Association and the community.
It's an honor to be here today, celebrating the anniversary of something that's so horrible to believe and think about. 100 years, the Cenotaph's been a part of this community, and we've been honored to be a part of that history. I'd like to list the names of the wreaths that we have here today. Government of Canada, the Province of Alberta, the City of Edmonton, the Rotary Club, Northeast Edmonton, the Edmonton Police Service, the RCMP, First Field Ambulance, 15th Field Ambulance, the 700 Wing, the Beverly Heights Community League, the Beacon Heights Community League, the Beverly Historical Society, and the Beverly Business Association.
It's an honor and a privilege to be able to join you by video on this National Day of Remembrance. I'm sorry that we can't be together in person this year because of COVID-19, but we can still gather in a spirit with millions of people across Canada and around the world because this day is as important as it ever was. And this year marks a special milestone for the Beverly Cenotaph. It's been 100 years since the veterans who returned to Beverly after serving in the Great War, almost 1/5 of the town's population at the time, built the cenotaph to honor their friends and neighbors who fell in the war. And today we pause to remember those friends and neighbors, as well as the millions of lives that were forever changed. We also take time to reflect on the sacrifices of all who have served and continue to serve our country. To commemorate the 11th day of the 11th month of the 11th hour, we bow our heads and take a moment to remember the deafening silence that occurred after the guns of World War I fired for the last time. In this moment, we remember the price of our freedom, all that was lost, and all that was sacrificed. We honor the courageous young men and women who fought and continue to fight for our freedom, democracy, and peace. We remember all the things they gave up when they left behind their homes, their jobs, their families. We think of the children too young to understand why their parents wouldn't be home for the holidays. And we pay tribute to those who returned home, but whose lives were forever changed. Because they lost so much and gave everything, we vow to never forget. The men and women who served were parents, siblings, aunts and uncles, neighbors and friends. They served our country with pride, compassion, and strength. Our values and institutions, our freedom to participate in cultural and political events, to speak our minds and be heard, all exist because of those we remember today that gave their lives to protect them. To the veterans who are watching this morning, on behalf of City Council and the people of Edmonton, I thank you. We owe a tremendous debt of gratitude to you and to all the young men and women who have served and continue to serve and protect the peace of our country today. Thank you.
I'm Darren Billis, MLA for Edmonton Beverly Clairview, wishing you all a peaceful and thoughtful Remembrance Day. I know that this year Remembrance Day looks a little bit different, but it is still important to pay our respects and reflect on the sacrifice that men and women have made for us so that we can enjoy the privileges that we have here in Canada. This year is also the 100th anniversary of the Beverly Cenotaph. The Beverly Cenotaph, which is behind me, is the oldest cenotaph in Western Canada, and every year hundreds and hundreds of Albertans gather here to pay their respects to our fallen soldiers, but also to the men and women who are currently serving around the world. I encourage all of you to take the time to thank our first responders, our men and women in uniform who have made sacrifices, some paying the ultimate price for our freedoms. I'd also like to encourage everyone to make a small sacrifice. We know that right now we are in the midst of a global pandemic, and in order to keep our neighbors, our friends, our families safe, we all need to do our part. So I'm calling on all Canadians to do their part to keep each other safe. And so I will be spending today reflecting on what it means to honor the men and women who protect us. I encourage all of you to do the same. Thank you.
Remembrance Day is a time to commemorate and honor Canadians who've served in uniform. Throughout our history, our veterans have protected our freedoms and created the peace that we all enjoy. We must never forget their service. It's even more important right now. 2020 has been hard on everybody, but it has been especially hard on our veterans. Veterans from the Second World War, Korea, and the Cold War are more at risk of COVID-19. They did their duty for us. We can now do our duty for them. Please follow public health advice, in part to help protect the health of veterans, lest we forget.
One thing we have, for those people that are not here this year, due to the restrictions we had this year, we did leave one wreath that is designated on behalf of all those who could not be here. That wreath will be staying for the week, will not be removed. So if you wish to take pictures after, when everyone has left the park area, you can do so at that time. Well, this has been certainly a different type of year. And before we conclude, we need to pay tribute to not only the many people that contribute to this yearly event this year, but the many people watching online. We know this is tough for all of you. For the greater good, to stay safe, we hope the hopes were we can get back to normal for next year if we could just keep our numbers down. So with that, thank you for watching online. And those are the people that are here, keeping social distancing and keeping your masks on, please, let's do this so that we can get back to normal. I'd like to give a huge thank you that goes out to the following people: our member of Parliament, Carrie Diot, the representative Alberta Legislative Assembly, Darren Billis, the City of Edmonton, and the City of Edmonton did a wonderful job cleaning this park out for this event, so I think they did an excellent job this year. Councillor Tony Canarina for helping us out getting things ready with the city. The Edmonton's Police Service for their ongoing and help throughout all the years that I've been involved. They've been there to help us. Not a problem. They're great. The Beverly Business Association, Mark, your group has been very fundamental in helping us keeping organized with the committee. I thank you for having that access for us. Plus the executive director, Wes Robson, you were great. Like, I wish I had a secretary like you. 15 Field Ambulance, the commanding officer, Lieutenant Colonel Dave Allen, the Honorary Lieutenant Colonel Gord Steinke, and Gord, you've been a great help for helping us get the word out on when we were trying to get the Cenotaph revitalized. I want to thank you again for your help. RSM, Suzanne McAdams, you are amazing. And Master Warrant Officer Chris Pollier, I wish I could. I wish I knew you guys when I was in the forces. You guys are top notch. First Field Ambulance, the commanding officer, Commander Gord Barnes, and the RSM, Gino Short, thank you. Gino, you've been great as well. Good help. Thanks for the help. Our piper, Corporal Dylan Salvesberg, thank you for showing up here today. That was awesome of you to do that. Our bugler, Captain Jonathan Page. Our Vigil Cenotaph Guard. Our RCMP Vigil representative. The media for covering and leading up to this event. Global News, CBC News, CTV News, thank you for doing that. Edmonton Journal and the Edmonton Sun and the write-ups, thank you very much for doing that as well. Video production, our video production person is GrantCree for providing his services for historical references. Thank you also goes out to the few other sponsors like the 700 Wing, and a huge thank you goes out to our one of the main sponsors, the Rotary Club of Edmonton Northeast, which without their donation, we wouldn't enjoy this revitalized park and the monument we see today. On behalf of the Beverly Memorial Cenotaph Committee, Bonnie Felker, Jim Trudell, Cornell Russick, and myself, Joe Lucet, we thank you for watching today, and we'd love to see you here all live next year. Note, the color party and the dignitaries will be exiting first, and the vigil will march off once everyone is exited out of the park. Please stand by for the conclusion of the ceremony with the singing of God Save the Queen.
God save our gracious Queen, long live our noble Queen. God save the Queen. Send her victorious, happy and glorious, long to reign over us. God save the Queen.
Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our event. Thank you for showing up. I wish you all the best. Please stay safe and keep your social distancing. I want to see you next year in a bigger crowd. Thank you.